It's pretty simple about what I want to say to the offense. Stop looking at strike three.
You are Locked On Pirates, your daily Pittsburgh Pirates podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Locked On Pirates podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team, your Pittsburgh Pirates every day. My name is Ethan Smith, your host of this wonderful show for now almost 4 years, covering my fourth season as a Pittsburgh Pirates fan, bringing you all of your news, analysis, opinions, and reactions to everything going on in the world of the Pittsburgh Pirates. Today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. We'll talk about Monopoly Go a little bit later today, but make sure you go download Monopoly Go free on the App Store and Google Play because it's a very fun game to play. What was not a fun game to play last night was the game that the Pittsburgh Pirates played, losing, of course, 6-3 to the New York Mets. Another game that really the Pirates should have won. Another game that was obviously very winnable for them, a game that a lot of people would look back on and say, yeah, that should have been a win. Instead, the Pirates did end up squandering it. Aroldis Chapman giving up 3 runs and eventually getting ejected in the 8th inning. And we'll get to the bullpen issues later in today's show. But right now, the Pirates have a massive issue. They have a massive issue right now that they really truthfully need to fix. And at this current moment, that issue is the called third strike. And right now, when you just straight up look at this team and what they're doing as far as the called third strike is concerned, it's getting a little weird because when you're looking at how this team operates offensively, and this is a show that we did last week about asking if this is a sustainable offense. Is this offense something that the Pirates can sustain throughout the entire year? And you're seeing it in real time, the positives of this offense that the Pirates run and the negatives of how this Pirates offense operates. The positives are very clear. They are seeing a ton of pitches. They are up there easily in the top 5 in pitches seen so far this year. And they've done a phenomenal job at really making opportunities for themselves. They've gotten runners in scoring position. They've gotten pretty much everything you could think of, really, in terms of, I'm trying to get this glare out of the way for you guys, but it's not happening really. But they've created opportunities. They've gotten runners in scoring position. They've got on base via the free pass. Like, for instance, with base on balls right now, the only team better than the Pittsburgh Pirates in getting on base via the free pass is the New York Yankees. They are the only team so far that is better than them. The Pirates have 81 walks on the year. The Yankees have 86. The next closest team to the Pirates, who again are second best in the league in getting on base via the free pass, are the LA Dodgers at 72. So they're doing that great. You look at the at-bats that the Pirates have seen so far this year. They rank 4th in at-bats at 613. So they're getting on base. Their on base percentage ranks 6th in baseball right now at a 340. But the biggest issue they have at this moment is that they're not, I don't know what other way to describe it outside of saying they're just not swinging at pitches they should be swinging at later in counts. You guys have put this in my comments for quite a bit since the season has started, talking about the called third strike. And this is something that the Pirates have dealt with ever since Andy Haynes was implementing his offense, which, again, is an offense that predicates itself on on-base percentage and creating opportunities with runners in scoring position. The Pirates have done that well. Connor Joe is a guy who's done that very well with runners in scoring position. Brian Reynolds, for instance. There's been a lot of guys that have taken advantage of when runners are in scoring position more often than not. But when it doesn't happen, it is detrimental to this team winning ball games, because we've seen this offense already this year do phenomenal things. We've seen this offense average over 6 runs a game and put up runs like it was no issue at all. But the thing is, when they face pitchers like they faced last night who are just going to attack them, then they get stuck in these pitchers heavy counts like 1-2 and 0-2. And that's where the problems persist, because we see the called third strike become a massive issue. So we've seen again that this Pirates offense, as you see right over there, right here, I say why the offense creates opportunities but also takes them away. Well, this style of offense that they are running, it allows them to get on base quite a bit. And you have guys that are hitting the baseball well, like Ke'Bryan Hayes, Brian Reynolds, O'Neill Cruz in spurts. Jack Sawinski's picking it up a little bit. Connor Joe, Edward Olivares. They have the horses to have a very strong offense. We've seen what it can do to have a very strong offense and what that offense is capable of. But when you're watching called strike 3 over and over and over again, it gets frustrating. Even more frustrating when you look at the advanced numbers and say, yeah, this team is a plus team with runners in scoring position. So you would think that you would want to continue that. And we saw it a couple times last night. Runners would get in scoring position, called third strike. And I get it. Umpiring hasn't been that great this year. But I would also make the argument that with the umpiring not being that great this year, why are you letting it get into their hands by just keeping the bat on your shoulders on strike 3? I think that's the biggest issue that I have here, is we know that the officiating has been bad. We know that the calls have not been that great, and that's on both sides. So why are you consistently looking at strike 3 and leaving it up to somebody instead of leaving it up to yourself? That's little league stuff. Truthfully, that is little league stuff. Now, I'm also not going to sit here and act like this game last night was a flat-out bad game. It wasn't. It was a pretty good baseball game by the Pittsburgh Pirates. It was just squandered late in the game. But this offense, again, we've seen it at its highest. We've seen it at its lowest already. And is it sustainable? I'll go back to that question I asked last week. It's sustainable depending on the pitching matchup. But the Pirates, the offense, and the coaching staff have to be able to be willing to adapt when they have to. And so far, they haven't exactly done that in some states. They've done it every once in a while, but they haven't done it consistently to where they can adapt away from the model that they've already created. Now, if this is the model they're going to stick with, this is something we're going to deal with all year. This is something that you're going to see all year. So you might just have to get used to it if they don't change it. Would I like them to change it? Hell yes. I would. I like getting on base. I do. I love when you get on base via the free pass. If you can get on base in any way, you take it and you get on base. But when it starts becoming detrimental to when you get runners in scoring position and when things are happening for you, that's where I become to have issues. And right now, the call third strike is their biggest issue. And it will continue to be their biggest issue if these guys don't start, 1, swinging at pitches earlier in the count, 2, stop falling behind in counts and giving the pitchers amazing counts to work with, and 3, just, again, you are a plus runners in scoring position team. Make it happen. When runners are on second and third, you should be swinging away. They have the bats, and these are talented bats too. I'm not saying they have the bats overall. They have talent all throughout this lineup. And it's something that for the Pirates right now, they're allowing it, and they rank 5th in strikeouts overall at 170. And when you look at it, that's just the game they're playing. They're either going to get on base via the walk or a hit, or they're going to strike out. And a lot of more times than not, they're striking out looking. I am a component of, if you're going to strike out, at least strike out swinging. Go down swinging the bat. never leave it up to the umpire on those 50-50 calls, because more often than not, they're going to go the pitcher's way. And also, striking out just sucks. I mean, it really does. And when you are creating the opportunities that the Pirates are creating, again, you heard me mention earlier about how many pitches they're seeing and how they're getting on base and how they're creating these opportunities. Create the opportunities and take advantage of them rather than taking them away by leaving the bat on your shoulders. That's the overarching theme here. And we'll see if they start adapting to it. And again, we've seen this Pirates offense already have success this year. It can be and likely will be a successful unit throughout the year. But for it to be a truly elite unit, they're going to have to cut out the called third strikes. And we'll see if they can do that. We saw again that the Pirates had a chance to win last night, but the back end of the bullpen continued to have issues. We're going to talk about those issues here in a minute. But before we do, let's talk about Monopoly Go. Go and download Monopoly Go free on the App Store and Google Play, because I've been told that I'm a competitive person. I would usually agree with that. And well, yeah, I have a competitive side. We all do. And my competitive side is a big fan of Monopoly Go. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. It's a great twist on Monopoly where you play on not one, but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up amazing cities that bring you big money. But the best part is messing with my friends. I can charge them rent on my iconic properties, just like classic Monopoly. But now I can also rob their vaults of riches for myself, and the leaderboards show me who the biggest Monopoly tycoon is. And, you know, we've all been there, either as a player or a fan. It's halftime and the scoreboard's not looking good, but Monopoly Go always gives you a chance to come back. Again, you can play on countless dynamic Monopoly boards, make your friends bankrupt by smashing their landmarks with a wrecking ball, and charge other players rent for your iconic properties. So get out there, put on your game face, and download Monopoly Go now free on the App Store or Google Play. If you're looking to go to a Pirates game this year, make sure that you download the GameTime app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first order, because the Pirates are coming back home after this series in Flushing, New York against the New York Mets, where they will be facing the Boston Red Sox and the Milwaukee Brewers. And if you want to get in on the action at PNC Park for the second homestand of the year, make sure you download GameTime, because GameTime is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which includes the Pittsburgh Pirates, and makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the GameTime app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. And with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, GameTime takes the guesswork out of buying your Pirates and MLB tickets. GameTime also will credit you 110% of the difference of their lowest price guarantee. You get a panoramic view of your seat at PNC Park in the app before you buy, and your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime and download the GameTime app today. Create an account and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off, and download the GameTime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. And folks, it's creeping up on us, but the NFL draft is next week, and tomorrow at 7 Eastern time on April 17th, it's Locked On's NFL Mock Draft Live, streaming on the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Find the ultimate 6-episode series on April 17th at 7 Eastern time to hear who the local Locked On experts are picking for every NFL franchise, including Christopher Carter, the Locked On Steelers podcast, with live reactions from local college football experts and even the fantasy football angle. Again, that's the NFL Locked On Mock Draft on April 17th at 7 Eastern Time, streaming live on Locked On Sports Today, 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. And folks, welcome back to the Locked On Pirates podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team, your Pittsburgh Pirates, every single day. It's a crazy time going on in the sports world. We just had the WNBA draft yesterday. Baseball's in full swing. The Pittsburgh Penguins are trying to get into the playoffs. The NBA playoffs start tonight with the play-in tournament in the Western Conference. Things are going crazy. And Locked On is your source for all of that stuff. We have everything you need, including here with baseball. So last night was a game. Pirates were up 3-0 coming out of the top of the sixth. Go to the bottom of the sixth. Things kind of blew up pretty quick. Derek Shelton, I would say, just left Martin Perez out there just a little too long. 5 2/3 innings for Perez. Gave up 3 earned runs. ERA still sits at a 2.55, though. Perez has still been absolutely electric. And Hunter Stratton and Colin Holderman did pretty well, I'd say, in what they did so far in that game. 2 strikeouts from Holderman. But where the issue ended up coming from was Aroldis Chapman, who only got 1 out in the 8th inning, gave up 3 earned, walked a guy, had 2 strikeouts. And this is just sometimes the side of Aroldis Chapman that you are going to get at this stage of his career. This is just something that Aroldis Chapman is either going to be 100% electric or 100% off. That's usually just the state of Aroldis Chapman and how he's been. But this isn't just about Aroldis Chapman. You look at some of the losses that the Pirates have taken. They have 6 losses on the year now. 6. They're 11-6. So they're still playing, I'd say, really good baseball. So let's just look at the last couple. So you had last night, you give up 3 runs in the 8th inning from Aroldis Chapman. You then look at Saturday, their loss prior to this, where they get walked off by the Philadelphia Phillies. That was more on Jose Hernandez at that point. And you continue to just break it down into a science. Even on Thursday, their loss to the Phillies, 5-1, 4 runs in the 7th inning. Then you go to Tuesday against the Tigers, 4 runs in the 9th inning. That is their last 4 losses. That is their last 4 losses, folks, out of the 6 that they have on the entire year. I mean, we can continue to scroll back and go look at Baltimore, where they gave up 3 of the 5 runs in the 7th and 8th inning. That's 5. How about let's go all the way back to the Nationals game. That was the Nationals game. The Nationals, their first loss of the year from the Washington Nationals, was the only time that the Pittsburgh Pirates, in a loss, did not give up a run in the final 3 innings. The other 5 times, they gave up at least 1 run in the final 3 innings. So the bullpen, which I have praised as a strong unit and still think is a strong unit, has had its issues late in games. We've seen it from David Bednar. We've seen it from Aroldis Chapman. Colin Holderman's been injured, so I don't really consider him having issues yet, but he's looked good for the most part outside of that Phillies game. And when you look at it and how this goes, now I'm not saying that the Pirates were going to win those 5 games that they gave up those runs. But when this bullpen that has been a strong unit is struggling late in games, scares you a little bit. And for a lot of you who listen to this show over the off season and have really listened to this show through and through, which I always appreciate, you would absolutely know that everybody was scared about the rotation more than anything. The bullpen was going to be just fine. And on the early onset, it was. But it is also completely impossible for a bullpen to not make any mistakes at all through an entire year. And if you're going to make these mistakes, make them now. Now, I know these games mean just as much as they do in September in the record card and everything. But if you could get these moments out of the way now where you're blowing games late, folks, that'd be great, because if they can pick it up and figure it out later on, and this bullpen can get back to the form that it has been in, then yeah, I think that that's a major piece to this. But right now, you've kind of seen the yips go from David Bednar to Aroldis Chapman. And for Derek Shelton, that's just something as the manager that he's going to have to work through to kind of pick up when his guys do have it or when they don't. And the bullpen has plenty of options still to really have some guys sit for a while if they're not pitching well and have other guys pitch more when they are. And it's still a strong unit. Don't get me wrong. But they are having issues right now. Again, their last 5 losses were all games where they gave up a run or more in the 7th inning or later. That goes back to the bullpen. So it sounds kind of counterintuitive that I'm saying it's a strong unit, although they've been partially responsible for the last 5 losses. But you also just look around at the talent that they have in the bullpen, and you got to ask yourself, and I'll ask myself, and I'll ask you, is that something that you really expect them to do all the time? Because we've already seen this bullpen shut down games. We've seen them shut down multiple innings. Remember opening day? Opening day, they had like 7 scoreless innings. This is a unit that will be just fine. But they are having issues right now. So how do they fix these issues? Well, one, I think that you need to supplant some of these guys in their roles. We talked about Holderman, Chapman, Bednar. That's kind of what it looked like they were going to try to do yesterday until Chapman had that big blow up. Now, again, when you're trying to supplant that role, those guys have to then fill that role. Chapman did not do that yesterday. But I don't even know if Bednar would have came in the game anyway, considering the game was 3-3 at that point. But once you get it out of reach, it's hard for the offense to come back. Something we talked about. The offense can come back too. It's willing to do it. But when you're looking at called third strikes and not taking advantage of the opportunities given to you, makes it a whole lot harder. And a big component, I think, that's going to help this bullpen eventually from getting out of this little rut that they've been in a little bit lately as a whole, is if these starting pitchers can continue to just do what they're doing. Martin Perez still had a very good outing yesterday. 5 2/3 and 3 earned runs. You'll take that all the time. Jared Jones, who goes on the hill tonight, who we'll talk about in the final segment, he's done phenomenal work. Mitch Keller has picked it up since those first 2 starts of the year. Marco Gonzalez was pitching really well before his injury. Bailey Falter has even given you some pretty good starts over the last couple outings. If the starting pitchers can keep giving them 6, even 7 strong innings, then I think the bullpen will settle back into its own. And we'll see if they could settle back into its own tonight in Game 2 against the New York Mets. But before we talk about that game and preview it, let's talk about LinkedIn. Try LinkedIn Sales Navigator and get a 60-day free trial at linkedin.com/lockedon. Are you struggling to close deals? Back-to-back or B2B selling is tougher than ever, and that's why I want to tell you about LinkedIn Sales Navigator. LinkedIn Sales Navigator is a sales intelligence platform that helps professionals effectively prospect and engage high-value customers, drive higher revenue, and increase sales performance. Sales Navigator helps you target the right buyers, surface key signals such as job changes on which accounts you should prioritize, and shows you hidden allies so you can find those buyers that are most likely to convert. Fueled by LinkedIn's 1 billion member platform, Sales Navigator gives you the most up-to-date first-party data, enabling you to unlock conversations with the people that matter. So right now, you could try LinkedIn Sales Navigator and get a 60-day free trial at linkedin.com/lockedon. That is linkedin.com/lockedon. locked on for a 60-day free trial and let LinkedIn Sales Navigator help you sell like a superstar today. Alrighty, folks, and welcome to the third and final segment of today's episode of Locked On Pirates here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team, your Pittsburgh Pirates every day, your 11-6 Pittsburgh Pirates every day, going into tonight's game at 7:10 in Flushing, USA, as it says on MLB.com. Of course, it'll be Jared Jones versus an old friend tonight. It's going to be Jose Quintana, who has kind of gotten thrust into the number one role out there in New York, of course, with the departures of Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer last year and Kodai Senga being injured this year. You look at Quintana so far, 15 2/3 innings, 12 strikeouts, a 1.53 whip, 3.45 ERA in his 3 starts. This will be his 4th start on the year. Another lefty for the Pittsburgh Pirates, but the Pirates so far this year have taken the challenge of facing lefties very well, I would argue. They've actually played very, very good against left-handed pitching. And that's a big thing. I mean, I truthfully think that having these games where you have a lefty that's on the mound and the fact that they've been going out of their way to do well against it, pretty good stuff. You do see some guys on the Pirates who have quite a bit of experience against Jose Quintana. Andrew McCutchen, for instance, in 24 at-bats, has 1 home run, 3 RBIs, a 292 average, and an 828 OPS against Jose Quintana. Jack Sawinski has an OPS of about 333, so not too many sample size there. Brian Reynolds with a pretty big sample size against him as well, although he's hitting 188 and 438 OPS against him. So, lots of experience against Jose Quintana in this one. O'Neal Cruz, Hayes, Joe, Olivares, and Rowdy Tellez have all faced him in his career. Don't know if Tellez will be in the game tonight against the lefty, but we'll see what they decide to do there. But Jared Jones will be on the bump again tonight for his 4th start of the year, where he enters the game with 25 strikeouts on the year, 18 innings pitched, a .94 whip, 4 ERA. I think the big thing that you want to see from Jared Jones tonight is just keep the ball in the yard. That has been his issue so far. That has been the Achilles heel that he's dealt with through his first 3 starts. But if that's all you're really giving up, then fine. I mean, he's given up 4 home runs and 8 earned runs over those 3 starts. But again, 25 strikeouts to 2 bases on balls. You're going to take that all the time. And on average, 18 innings pitched over those 3 starts. Yeah, he's going 6 innings consistently right now. That's something massive for him and what he's been able to do. His strikeouts per 9 is one of the best in baseball. He's up there among the leaders in baseball in strikeouts. And this is a Mets lineup that, it has the power to put up runs, as we saw last night in the final stages of that game. It's an offense that is capable of doing these things. You look at Brandon Nimmo, you look at Starlin Marte, old friend, Francisco Lindor. Although he's having a slow start to the year, he's still Francisco Lindor. Pete Alonso has had a pretty good start to the year with an 894 OPS. Brett Beatty, who's one of their younger players, has had a good start to the year so far. Even Trent Taylor, I believe is his name. Yeah, Trent Taylor. Or Tyrone Taylor. There we go. I don't know why I was saying Trent Taylor. But then you look at Harrison Bader, another guy who the Pirates should be very familiar with. This is an offense of the Mets that can either be very quiet or put up a lot of runs. And we saw that they were able to put up 6 runs on 8 hits last night. For the Pirates, 3 hits just isn't going to cut it. The offense needs to show up tonight, especially the top 3. Last night, the top 3 only had 1 hit from Brian Reynolds, that top 3 being O'Neal Cruz, Brian Reynolds, and Ke'Bryan Hayes. Albeit Hayes and Cruz got on base via the free pass, but they also had 4 strikeouts combined. So I'm looking for the Pirates tonight to hit the baseball well. Let the bullpen do some work. Be shut down. Give them a lead. Let's see what Jared Jones can do again. Let's see if he can have a solid day on the bump again against the New York Mets. I think he will. I think they bounce back. I think they win this one. I don't think they're going to let the loss really hinder them too much. But we'll see what the Pirates can do tonight at 7:10 Eastern time against the New York Mets. Folks, thank you so much. I don't know why I feel like I'm rushing today. Thank you so much for tuning into the Locked On Pirates podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team, your Pittsburgh Pirates every day. My name again is Ethan Smith. Follow me right there on social media at MVP_Ethan or at Locked On Pirates. You can also find this show free and available to you Monday through Friday on YouTube or any of your audio platforms. Folks, thank you so much for being the best fans for a podcast host could ever ask for. Have a phenomenal rest of your Tuesday. And until tomorrow, I'll see you on the flip side.